I got a really beautiful letter from Kelly Reichardt saying she wanted to adapt some of the stories, any of the stories, and figure out how to make a film with 3 of them. We talked about which stories she wanted to do, and then she wrote the screenplay. They were stories I'd written so long ago that I was sort of happy to have someone else run with them and do her thing with them. When Kelly first wrote to me, I had not seen her films. I knew her name and I knew of the films, but I hadn't seen them. So I went and watched Wendy and Lucy and Meek's Cut Off. And then Night Moves came out as she was working on the screenplay for this, or as she was first working on the screenplay for this. I think they're wonderful. She does really beautiful things with that Western landscape. I grew up in Montana, and so it's a place where I have sort of a lot of detail and vocabulary to draw on. Some of the stories in Both Ways Is the Only Way I Want It were stories that I couldn't make work the first time, and then I went back to them later, and time had passed, and I could see how to fix them. But what I did with some of them was move them to Montana when they had not originally been set there. And then I felt like I had this world I knew really well to draw on. And I think it's probably true for Kelly, too, that there was going to be stuff in that landscape that was going to let her tell the story.
Hey.
I was raised by lawyers, which is kind of like being raised by wolves. Small town lawyers. Everyone sort of knows each other. And most people only deal with lawyers when something extreme is happening in their lives. So lawyers tend to have good stories. And I also think they have to be good storytellers because that's their job, is to present a narrative and get people to believe it.
The contractor is clearly negligent.
Yes. You see?
But your previous settlement precludes a tort claim. Employees are required to have insurance so workers' injuries can be covered. But as soon as you take that first money, you've settled.
My stepmother's a lawyer, and she did workers' comp law. The stories in both Tome and Travis B. are sort of based on stories my stepmother told me at some point. Half in Love was my first book. The stories in Half in Love are really stories I wrote when I was in my mid-20s. And the stories in Both Ways Is the Only Way I Want It are stories that were written sort of over time. But Travis B. was published before I published any of my books. Kelly had read both collections and was just picking from both.